selling against your competition? Selling against competition. Point number one. Point number one, everyone is your competition. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that you have a finite amount of money and time and energy and resources, right? Money, time, energy, resources. You've only got so much, right? So I think you have to understand that whatever product or service you're selling, you need to be really fucking good. You have to be good because you're saying that they should put their money and time and energy with you over all the different products and all the different services on this entire planet that are all spending billions of dollars trying to advertise and put themselves in front of them. And you're saying, no, you should go with me instead of all of them. So I think what that means is you have to be excellent. You have to understand it's not enough to just be okay because there's too much competition. Like what you sell is $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or $300,000, whatever it is. Understand that that person could have done something else with that money, right? So they could have done, the higher ticket it is what you're selling, the more they could have done a lot of other things with that money, right? And so the reason it's important, everyone is your competition. It means you need to be good. It means you need to take what you're doing seriously. It means you need to be excellent. You need to be excellent to be worth their investment of their time, money, energy. So I'm going to say, be excellent. Now, the good news about that too is that most people are not excellent, right? I mean, most people aren't even attempting to be excellent. So if you're even trying to be excellent, you're ahead of like 80% of people already. Step number 2, study the competition. And I'm going to write direct and indirect. Study the competition, direct and indirect. So let's say you sell, getting low on my marker. Oh, I guess I need my other one. Oh, much better. Let's say you sell Lexus, right? So direct competitors might be Acura, maybe BMW, maybe Mercedes, depending on the different models of cars, right? And then indirect competitors might be things that are a little above or a little below that. So maybe below would be, you know, Hyundai, Honda, you know, like some of these other brands, Kia, you know, and above might be like Porsche, right? Alfa Romeo, maybe. Some models of the BMW and Mercedes, depending on what they are. So there's direct and there's indirect competitors. I think you need to know all of them because somebody could go with a direct competitor or they might go with an indirect competitor, right? Like let's say if they're shopping for a car and let's say they say that their budget is $50K, but you have to really do a good job because it might be that they end up going with something cheaper like a Kia or something like that, or it might be that they really have money like that and they go and they buy a Porsche and you didn't know they were going to do that, right? So maybe they would consider something low or they would consider something high. So I think it's worth knowing your direct and indirect competitors. So you can sort of have an idea of everything they could possibly do and how you would sell against it, right? The more variables you can control, that you know everything they could possibly do and you know that you're the best, the better things are gonna go, right? So that's what we're trying to do here in all these videos. We're trying to take all these variables and control them, because if we can control them, we can have a lot more influence on the outcome. So study your direct and indirect competitors. Study like the direct people that people are buying from instead of you, but a little bit up and a little bit down, right? And you really want to be able to sell against all of them. You have to know what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, right? For all of those different car brands, you know, what are the things that they're doing well and what are the things that they're not? Why are people choosing them? Why are people not choosing them, right? You want to know as much about them as possible, definitely more than the prospect knows, and ideally more than the people at those other dealerships, those other salespeople know. The more knowledge you have of all of these moving pieces, the more you can influence how all this happens. The less knowledge you have, they're like, well, we're going with BMW. You're like, well, that sucks for me, right? But if you have really intimate knowledge of BMW and Lexus and everything about how they compare, and they're like, we're going with BMW, then you might be able to say like, well, I know you said that, you know, your most important thing to you is reliability. You know, have you ever researched blah, 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 the reliability of Lexus versus BMW? No, I haven't. Okay, perfect. Here are some of the numbers, right? And why is reliability important? Well, because I don't want to spend a bunch of repairs. Okay, well, here's what this costs over, you know, so the more you know about your competitors, their strengths, their weaknesses, everything about them, the more effectively you're gonna be able to sell against them. So study competition, also that's sort of, we started to talk about how to sell against them. You have to study your own product. You have to know everything that you possibly can about your own product. The more you know about your own, what are the weaknesses? What are the strengths? How would you sell against these, right? What makes you better? Not every product or service is gonna be right for every person, right? That's impossible. But you want to know what makes you special. What makes you special compared to everybody else? What makes you better than everybody else? Maybe there's one or two things, and you have to know what those are in comparison to the others. You have to know where you're gonna be able to beat them all out. Now, you may not always beat them all out on everything, but you have to know all of the ways that you could possibly outcompete them. You have to know as much as you can there and as much as you can about your own product. The more you know all that stuff, the more you're gonna be able to navigate the sale comfortably. Because whatever the person says, you sort of already know everything they could possibly say. So whatever comes out of their mouth, it's not like, oh crap, like the whole sale is blown, like I'm screwed, like this is not gonna work anymore. Oh, like why did they have to say that? I hate when they say that, right? But if you know all of that stuff already, then the sale is just kind of happening, and whatever they say, you're like, okay, no problem, right? Because you already have answers. You really want to try to have answers to everything before things happen, because that way when they are happening, you can be ready, right? You're not gonna be caught off guard. It's just like, okay, yep, no problem. Have you ever thought about this? So that's that. I want to give an example of how I used to sell against one of my competitors, because I think this is gonna be helpful. KB Home versus Hanover. I used to work for KB Home. I would sell a lot against Hanover, which is another company, and they're good. They're good. So the complaints that I would always get about KB Home, and they're sort of famous for these complaints, is oh, KB Home doesn't include anything. Oh, everything is an upgrade. Everything's an upgrade. You're charging us for everything. You know, over here, Hanover, they include everything. They include granite. They include, you know, the high cabinets. They include the tile floors. Like, why don't you guys include anything? This is so stupid. Why would I buy over here when they have that over there? And so, you know, you hear that a certain number of times, you get to think, okay, are they right? I mean, I don't know. Are they just way better? And so, you know, obviously I'm working for KB Home, so I have to figure that out. So what I did, so KB Home basically lets you customize your home, and Hanover, they had like 3 different packages, like A, B, and C, and you could pick, and you couldn't change anything, but all of this stuff would be included. And with KB Home, you had to add everything, but the price was lower, right? But people are like, oh, well, yeah, like the price is lower, but once you add everything in, it's way more anyway, so it really doesn't even make any sense, and blah, 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 right? And KB Home is a cool model because they let you customize, and they're available at low price points, which is very rare. For most builders, when they let you customize to that level, it's a higher price point, right? There's a high level of customization available with KB Home. So what I decided to do is like, okay, well, what are all the things that people want that they're getting over there they don't feel we're getting over here included, right? And they were granite in the kitchen, tile in the wet areas, I think it was 40-inch cabinets. Sometimes they wanted white cabinets, and let's say walk-in shower. Walk-in shower. So those were pretty much the things that people were wanting. And so I was like, okay, well, I wonder like how much is it for every single one of these things to add these in with all of our main floor plans that we sell, which was like, they were named based off the square feet, so like 1707, 1989, 2555, to the names of some of the floor plans. And I just wanted to know, like, how does it compare? And so what I realized was when you customized it, if you just added in the things that people wanted, we were actually less money. And that was also interesting because they could customize those things and they couldn't over at Hanover. And what I also realized, I was like, okay, so this is cheaper when they do that. And the only time where Hanover would have been a good fit for people, if you really think about it, like very literally, the only way it's a good fit is if every single one of those freaking features that they picked is exactly what you want because you're paying for it, right? So they've got 3 packages. So you pick A, B, or C, right? You pick A, B, or C, and you know, if there's anything that Hanover selected that you would not have selected, you're paying for things you don't want. With KB Home, you can actually be less than them and you can customize it and make it exactly how you want and still be lower price. Or you could make it higher price. But the point is that the only way that Hanover would have actually been a better fit, at least, you know, there's other things that could be said too, like the communities, there's other things, right? But I'm just giving it a specific example, at least with these details, is that the only way is to answer these objections that people had, that Hanover could have been a better fit, is if you would have selected all of those exact things, because then you're paying for what you actually wanted. But if not, you're paying for things you didn't want. You could make it the colors you want, you could make everything. Now you've got the customized version and you're actually paying less. So, but that took some thinking, right? That really took some digging to figure out, well, is Hanover way better than us? Like, you know, and this is nothing against Hanover. Like, you know, I love KB Home, I love Hanover also. They have an amazing product. So if any Hanover sales managers are looking at this, I'm a big fan of Hanover. But I'm just giving this example of how I sold against it, and I'm sharing that because I think that it's valuable in selling against a competition that sometimes you have to get that detailed. Sometimes you really have to look at things and think, okay, like what's really going on here? Like, are they really better? Well, what's people's actual problem? Like, is what they're saying true? Is it not true? Is it a little true? You know, how can I understand this better? And so sometimes selling against competition is not easy. I think a lot of times, you know, the salespeople, we talked about this in the stories section, but they don't even really believe in their own product, right? They're like, oh, those people up the street are so much better and they include so much more and they do it for so much less and la 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 la, right? But really, if you have a good product, good company, they're probably doing something right. And if you really study them hardcore and you really study the other side and you really get into the granular details, you're gonna figure out a way to sell against the other people. Not that what you have is always gonna be the right fit, but you're gonna make sure you leave nothing on the table. So, selling against the competition, super important. People are gonna bring up the competition. We've got the internet, people are looking around. You have to be ready for it. You have to know what's gonna happen before it happens. The way you do that is you do your homework so you're prepared. And the more you know how to sell against everything, even if it means going into some extreme detail to get some answers, asking your company, ask whoever, then it's worth it, because that's many thousands of dollars that you're gonna make because you did that extra homework. So, moving to the next item.